Welcome back, everybody, to the Breakthrough Moment podcast. My name is Zac Deane. Special guest, Johann Urkov. Are you there, Johan?
I'm here. Thanks for having me, Zach.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so excited for this. Your product is amazing, and I can't wait to tell everybody all about it. So I'll do a quick little introduction, and then we'll get straight into this. So for those of you who are joining us for the very first time, the Breakthrough Moment podcast is all around interviewing entrepreneurs, creators, and investors and asking them, what is the biggest breakthrough throughout your career that took you into another level of success? And as they share their breakthroughs with us at home can have breakthroughs as well. And so let me do a quick intro and we'll dive into today's interview. For those who don't know Johan, he's a former GM of subscriptions at Woolworths. He's an ex-strategy consultant, and he's taken his passion, his experience, and his lifestyle as a parent to create what he's created today. And he's a co-founder of Understanding Zoe. Okay, so this is actually an Australian first. It's a neuroaffirming AI platform that turns reports, observations, and daily questions into clear, personalized strategies for parents, educators, and therapists. And so if you're out there, if you know somebody, or if you have a child that has neurodivergence or maybe is on the spectrum, this will be a really powerful interview for you to listen up to. So this actually sparked through Johann's real life experience as a parent whose daughter is neurodivergent. And what I really want to talk about today is, in terms of business, is that you took this as an idea, as a concept, and turned it into an MVP within 1 month. And
That's
so what I'm
correct.
really curious to do is to pick your brain around that. And so without further ado, Johan, give us the update. What has been the biggest breakthrough throughout your career?
All right. Thanks for having me, Zach. So yes, just for the context, we have two daughters, and as Zach mentioned, Zoe, eldest daughter, who's 9-year-old, was diagnosed with autism and ADHD 18 months ago. So when we walked out of that psychologist appointment with a 38-page assessment after 2 hours, we felt like we had this encyclopedia of information about Zoe, but absolutely no idea where to begin. So simple things like, how do we explain this to our parents? What therapy should we prioritize? Everything became super overwhelming. And frankly, we were quite terrified of making the wrong call. And then every day at school, Zoe's teacher was, although she was doing the best she could do, she was also very lost. So she was almost kind of like harpooning us every single time, telling us, okay, this is what happened today with Zoe. What should I do when that happens? And frankly, we didn't have the answers either. We were spending time on Google at night, trying to stay one step ahead of the next question or meltdown. But frankly, something was not working. We were kind of like failing Zoe, if that makes sense. And that's when it really hit us. The diagnosis really gave us a label, but not guidance. It didn't really help us translate any of it into real life. So over the first few months, what we did was we went through kind of like a slow and sinking realization that the system wasn't really built for family like ours. It wasn't giving us clarity or direction. And as I mentioned, we felt like we were some kind of like failing Zoe a little bit. So the breakthrough really was realizing that no one was coming to help us to connect the dots. And if we really wanted to make things change for Zoe, we'd have to build the things that we wished existed when we walked out of that room with the report.
And so then how did you go from, oh gosh, we're failing as a parent here, to then saying, let's start a business? That's, because that's a big commitment itself on top of life and your daughters and, being a human. So what was that moment like? And then what happened next?
Yeah. So it wasn't one dramatic turning point. It was really a series of small moments that kept showing up as the same truth. Like as I said, the system wasn't built for family like ours. But there was really one night that brought everything into focus. So Zoe rushed into her room in a panic because she was overwhelmed with anxiety. And in that moment, everything else, the reports, the emails, the therapy plans really fell away. What stayed was the realization that none of the professionals we had seen had prepared us for this. And we still didn't know what to do in real time. And that's pretty terrifying as a parent. So the real catalyst was accepting that no one was coming to connect the dot for us. We could keep coping, surviving, or we could create the tool that we wish we had in that moment when Zoe really needed us the most. So the shift from overwhelm into action is what really set everything else in motion. And that breakthrough didn't just kind of like impact the business because we didn't have any business. It actually created it. Up until that point, we weren't trying to start a company. We're just two parents trying to survive. But once we realized that no one was coming to help us connect the dots, we realized that we decided to actually build something for ourselves because we desperately needed it. So the first version was incredibly simple, but even in its simplicity, we realized that we had essentially built a child psychologist in our pocket and one that knew everything about Zoe. It could translate her reports into clear action, help us understand her behaviors, what she was going through, and give us real guidance in the moment when we felt completely lost. So we really built it because we needed it, and not because we're trying to create a product. And then something else, something unexpected really started to happen. Other parents like us were going through the same challenges, started asking us if we could build something similar for their children and their own family. And this was the first moment when we realized that this wasn't just our problem. And the second moment came from Zoe's teacher. She sent us a long email explaining how much it had helped her. She said that Understanding Zoe completely reframed the way she was managing tricky situations with Zoe. And she actually admitted herself that she hadn't been fully trained to support neurodivergent children like Zoe. And that message made it really clear that the gap wasn't just at our home, but it was also in schools, in classrooms, and in every interactions. So really those two signals were the turning points. They showed us that this wasn't just a personal solution. It was something that families, teachers, and actually the whole ecosystems really needed. So the breakthrough didn't take us to the next level. It really launched the business and gave it purpose, clarity, and momentum.
Really key point there that you just mentioned is that the breakthrough didn't, I guess, you turn the breakthrough into an opportunity and into a
Correct.
possibility. That what most of the time it's a breakdown that creates a breakthrough. And so
Yeah.
you guys felt like there was this breakdown in the parenting and the leadership inside of, helping your daughter with what she's going through. And through that breakdown, you were able to start a business for one, which is such an amazing feat, especially with everything you're going through. And then secondly, you said that this is actually a child therapist, I guess, disclaimer, in your pocket that allowed your daughter's teacher to really feel supported in her role even more. And so, yeah, I can imagine those two moments must have been like, wow, this is something really special. So what happened next?
Yeah. So what happened next is that we really decided to actually create a business. My wife and I. So my wife is the CEO of the business, and I'm the CPO and CTO. So it's really kind of like a family business. We decided to apply to Techstars. So that was probably 15 months ago now. So Techstars is an accelerator program. We got in September last year and spent 3 months in the program. At the same time, we decided to actually create the product. And yeah, so I'm not an engineer, so I spent a few hours every morning to kind of like learn how to build things. And after a while, I was confident enough to be able to build our MVP that we launched in market in October, November last year.
You just say it like, yeah, we had this idea and we launched it, and it's an MVP. It comes off so like naturally, it's like, oh, we just did that. But take us into the process. Like, give us like the 1, 2, 3. What are the ABCs of turning a concept into an MVP?
Yeah. So look, I think for us it was almost obvious and it flew very naturally because, as I mentioned earlier, we created that MVP for ourselves that we had been using for a little while. We also had clear signals from other parents, other families, Zoe's teacher, that it was something that really was helping them. So the next step was really for us to actually decide, is that something that we really want to do? We know that there is a need because we are living that particular need. So is that something we really want to do? And so we decided to actually give it a good go. At that time, I was still in my full-time senior leader role at Woolworths. So what I started doing is waking up every morning at 5 a.m. And spend some time really learning how to build a product from scratch. And then, so the funny thing is that I would be doing like from 5 to 7, working on learning and building the product, then switching into parent mode, preparing lunch boxes for the girls, getting them ready, bringing them to school, etc., and then moving into my full-time job as a senior leader in a large organization. So frankly, it was super intense, but it taught us something that's super critical. Passion and discipline are really the greatest accelerators of progress. You don't need the perfect conditions. What you need is commitment, clarity, and a problem worth solving. And building this way really fundamentally changed how I approach the business. It made me more resourceful, more focused, and more willing to learn anything that's required to move forward. It really showed me that the constraints that we had can be fueled if you use them well. So we're just two parents trying to build something, not engineers at all, but we did manage to actually build a platform that's quite complex using AI, etc. So the biggest learning wasn't technical. It was that you can build something meaningful with very little as long as the purpose is strong enough.
Such a great point there. And this is a theme amongst a lot of the interviews that I have, is that what you just shared there, a problem worth solving. It was something that you're intrinsically inspired to get up early, right? Before work, do get up, go home, and do life. And then probably before going to bed, work more on it, work
Yes.
late and up early. And so having that problem that's worth solving is such an individual thing for someone. And I think this is the other challenge that entrepreneurs have. It's like we start to compare ourselves with other people's success and someone else's beginning or middle or end with their own process. And they don't know that, this person's in their own, just living their own life and working on their own set of values and living from that place. But the second we start to compare, it creates this like thief of joy and, oh, I'm not as good as you, or I can't do that, and things like that. So it's such a common theme. But to have a problem worth solving is the roadmap really to be able to do this long term. And it's so close to home, literally in at home, as to the problem that you were trying to solve, which is really beautiful. You mentioned that you started developing the product. If someone's like, oh, I really want to develop an AI product or really want to start developing a platform, what did you use? What did you start to learn? Like, how did you upskill in that area?
Yeah. So I spent a couple of weeks kind of like looking through different solutions that would allow me to deliver an MVP quickly. And with the constraint that I mentioned, that I'm actually not an engineer. And although I have some notions on how programming languages work, I probably would not be able to develop everything from scratch. And I actually stumbled across a few platforms which are no code or low code platforms, which essentially allow you to build pretty complex, secure and safe solutions without necessarily having programming or developer knowledge. So that's what I started doing. I used those tools or solutions, like no code solutions, to build the first version of Understanding Zoe. And what that really allowed me to do is actually not have to rely on a full engineering team because, as I mentioned, we did not have any funding. It was just kind of like the two of us building this product. So no engineering team, just me at my desk building the product. what it also allowed us to do is iterate super fast. Because there is no need to kind of like use programming language. You actually build with no code. And I actually believe that it is actually our superpower at the moment. We can build things super fast without compromising security and safety and privacy of our users. So I think that we're going to keep using those tools for the time being because it has worked incredibly well for us.
This is so great, like celebrating you guys, and we'll definitely link to the platform and everything around this video. But I want to take you back to the beginning before you started Understanding Zoe as a product. If you could go back to the beginning and start again, what would you do differently? Would you change something? Would you add something?
It's interesting. Frankly, I don't think I would change anything. We're pretty happy with where we are at the moment. The approach that we've taken is, I think, the right approach. We spent a huge amount of time listening to our users um, and really trying to understand what were their pain points, what were they going through every single day, etc. And taking all of those learning in addition to ours to translate that into features that we knew were going to be super helpful for our users. So that customer centricity is really something that has helped us actually go fast very, very quickly. So I don't think I would change anything, frankly. Maybe the one thing that I would consider is um, the number of signals that would tell us that one particular feature is worth building and not necessarily just starting to build something because a couple of people have told us that they would want that. So kind of like really taking the time and making sure that we have all the signals to confirm that it is something worth building would be something that I probably would change. Oh, I can't hear you anymore, Zach. I think you're muted.
Thank you. I was just muted myself. Do you have any advice for someone listening who might have an idea? Maybe they've got that burning problem that they've been kept up late for, to just, they've been kept up late at night to try to solve. They can't get it out of their mind. Maybe it's a new problem or an old problem. And they're like, maybe I should turn this into a business. Maybe I should develop this into something. What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So maybe three advice. I think the first one is to stop waiting for that breakthrough to arrive. Because in my mind, breakthrough, well, in our example, breakthrough didn't show up as a big dramatic moment of clarity. Maybe for some people it does, but for us it wasn't the case. For me, breakthrough come from getting close enough to a problem that you can really feel it in your bones, if that makes sense. And that's really what happened with us. We lived the problem so intensely that building became the only logical next step. The second piece of advice is to start before you feel ready. So as I said, I wasn't an engineer. I'm not technical background, but I woke up every morning and told myself how to build because the problem mattered enough. And if you wait for the perfect skill set, the perfect founder, the perfect conditions, I think the moment is likely to pass you by. And the third point is similar. It's to really embrace the constraints. Having no funding, no team, and no time really forced us to focus on what truly mattered. So the simplicity of our first version wasn't really a limitation. It was really, as you say, it's not a bug, it's a feature, and really allowed us to learn from our users very, very early on. And finally, what I would say is follow the pull, not necessarily the push. If you're constantly pushing yourself to believe in an idea or pushing it to your users, it might not be the right one. But if the problem keeps pulling you back, and if you can't stop thinking about it, you know that you have something there. And if you're willing to learn entirely new skills to solve it, that's where the breakthrough actually lives. So my advice is simple: get close to the problem, start earlier, and feel comfortable. Embrace new constraints and trust the ideas that pull you forward.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I'm curious to know, you're in this now. You're now a developer. You've now got this tech startup and you've created this product and it's got a product market fit, and it's working. What is the future of where you guys want to take this? What does it look like in 12 months, 5 years? And how do you see AI changing this industry, which is the ability to self diagnose or personalize communication for, say, the neurodiverse industry?
Yeah, great question. So on the fact that I'm a builder, I think is the first point that I'll jump on. It's really interesting because I really had to go through a big mindset shift. Because before this, I was, as I said, a senior leader in a large organization. I was used to leading teams, setting direction, relying on my team to be around me and doing their job. So my job was to make decisions, not to do every single part of the execution myself. What's interesting is that I've now moved into that founder builder role, which flipped that completely. Suddenly, I'm not delegating things. I'm actually the product designer, the engineer, the quality tester, researcher, customer support, all in one. So that shifts from leading a large team to being the person who actually built the thing was confronting at first, I would say, but it also became incredibly energizing for me. So that's kind of like the first point I wanted to make. The second one on where to from here. So for us, it's actually twofold. In the short term, on one hand, we're actually going to keep doubling down on what we've started building, shaping our products based on the learnings that we've had. We're very close to our user. Actually, some of our users have become friends. That's kind of like how involved people are in our mission. So that's kind of like the first thing, like keeping improving the platform, removing the friction, building new features that are going to help make the biggest difference in day-to-day life for these parents. At the same time, we're also working on much larger initiative that I can't really tell you a lot about, but it's going to be something that will help families understand their child much earlier and with far more clarity, because we believe that understanding always comes before support. You need to understand your child better to be able to support them, and that new breakthrough is really going to help us with that. Your question about AI. Look, the reason why we've been able to build Understanding Zoe so quickly and with the constraints that we've called out is because AI is there. We've clearly built an AI native business because our objective was to scale the business without scaling the number of people working under the business. So right now it's really the two of us, and we have some fractional help here and there, but ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini are really our best friends. So I'm really like part of the team, and they're really helping us. So that really helped us not only understand how to build, but what to build. And it also helped us build the right automated processes so that we focus on what really matters. So we've created some AI agents that are in charge of kind of like bookkeeping, in charge of creating content and things like that. So we're fully embracing AI to make sure that we can focus on the things that really matter for our users. So that is kind of like how I would answer that question. It is really the right time for anyone to launch a business.
Fascinating times. I'm excited to see how this evolves. It's, what can be done now. Some of the time when I think about even some of the things I'm doing with the Life Blueprint, with our goal setting process, which we utilize AI now, it's we couldn't have done this process a year ago because of the integrations and software and prompts and just the ecosystem of how this all communicates now. It's creating so much efficiency for what we're doing, and so I'm excited to see where this goes. If it's helping people now, imagine where it's going to be in 12 months, 24 months. So
Exactly.
two last questions. My first question is and I'd love you to share how people can get in touch with you and things like that. Your links will be around the video, obviously. But I'm curious, you're a husband, you're a parent, your father, and, you've got a startup. There's these like massive components that you're juggling, so to speak, in life. These are in their own massive commitments. Do you have any advice for, say, the entrepreneur out there or someone who's wanting to start a business and they have full-time, they have kids that they're juggling, their careers and their startup and their spouse? Like, how do you manage all of that together, plus the added impact or stress from your daughter being neurodivergent? So, that must be a lot to hold, huh?
It is, but it's also something that we really fully embraced in our households. My wife is also autistic and ADHD, lately diagnosed. So it is true that in our household it can become quite hectic, and we have to juggle with a lot of things. But frankly, we're making it work quite well. We've managed to, although the business is taking a huge part of our lives, we're actually managing to cluster it quite well. I think my wife and I, and we actually decided as well very early on that we didn't want to compromise our health or even kind of like the relationship that we have with our children. So the way we're approaching it is that we are dedicating some times for our own mental health, being able to work out, and spending time with our daughters. Really important for us to have that flexibility that I did not really have as much before when I was in a full time role in a large corporation. Now I'm able to actually drop off the girls to school, pick them up at 3, spend a bit of time with them, and then go back to work. So it's working quite well for us. I'm not saying that it's always easy, but we are making it work quite well because we've decided to have those principles set up from very early on, my wife and I, that we don't want to compromise on. And I think to your point on what I would suggest for people who want to launch a business, as I said, it's kind of like the best time to create something. We were lucky to be able to not have two full salaries and give it a go. So it's also conscious that we're in a position that made that possible. But I would suggest to people, get started, do something. Even it's kind of like working in the evening, working in the morning, if you like the mornings or in the weekends. But actually get started with something. Don't feel blocked by, oh, you wouldn't know how to do that. Just get started and have a first version there. Talk to users who are like you. And I think you'll see that there will be that pool starting to happen. And if it does, you know that you have something worth building.
Advice, Johan, how can people get in touch with you? And who is it that this really helps? Just give us the real problem solution that you're providing here for everyone.
Yeah, what helps is essentially anyone caring for a neurodivergent child. So whether you have a child who's autistic, DHG, OCD, or anything like that, understanding Zoe can really be a big help because it helps you bring everybody who is caring for the child under one single understanding and one single source of truth. So it is really for parents of neurodivergent children, teachers, and therapists caring for them. The way it works is that parents will be creating an account on Understanding Zoe, inviting what we call their support village, and everybody would be able to access tailored insights and strategies that Pip, our AI coach, is able to give based on the knowledge that parents are uploading into the platform, but also because of the created and trusted knowledge that we've embedded into PEEP.
So great. If you're out there, please get in touch if you have questions or you just want to, trial the software. I highly recommend it, guys. This is a massive support and might be the missing link that you're looking for. Maybe who do you know that this might be beneficial for? Maybe you have a friend, a family member, someone at a school or church or community event that you've been to. Who could you recommend this to? Because these little shifts really make the biggest breakthroughs. My favorite question is, what is the challenge you'd like us to leave this podcast with? A challenge, it could be for today, this week, this month, this year, this quarter. What is that challenge that you want to just really impart on everyone listening at home today?
Yeah, I think the most important message from me is what I want to leave people with is that neurodivergence is not something to fix. It's actually something to understand. At the moment, 1 in 5 people in the world is neurodivergent, which means that this is not minority experience. It's a fundamental part of human diversity. And for family like ours, understanding is what really changes everything. And that's why we called it Understanding Zoe, because at first we wanted to understand our child better. Understanding reduces the overwhelm, it builds compassion, it helps teachers, parents, and therapists work together instead of in silos. And most of all, it gives neurodivergent children the chance to be seen for who they are, not for who they are expected to be. And if there is one thing that I want people to take away is that life becomes better for everyone when we replace judgment with curiosity and assumptions with understanding.
Well said. 100%. I couldn't agree more. When we lean in with curiosity and the questions and the presence to listen to what might have been an area of challenge or conflict or misagreement or separation, that's really where the breakthroughs happen, right? And so when we lean out, I always say when we lean out, we miss out. When we lean in, we win. And so that really backs onto that comment and that what you just shared there. So any final comments before we wrap it up?
No, I mean, you just re-emphasizing what you said. I would encourage listeners to think about someone in their own life, parent, a teacher, a carer might be going through what we went through. Uh, Violence touches so many families, yet most of the time the challenge is actually quite invisible. So if someone comes to mind, share this conversation with them, let them know they're not alone, and point them towards resources that can genuinely help. Overwhelmed and unsure where to start, invite them to have a look at Understanding Zoe. We built it for family like ours, and it might exactly be what they need to support their own child better.
Amazing. Everybody at home, thank you for listening today. If you have any questions, put into the comments, like, share this around. And Johan, thank you for what you're doing. Appreciate the hard work, the early mornings, the late nights. You know what you've been through. As you said, you were failing, and now you're helping not just yourself succeed and your family succeed, but other generations of and other families for generations to come as well. There'll be this ripple effect is. Is real because of what you guys are doing. So congratulations for your breakthroughs. Thank you so much for being a guest. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me, Zach.